Don't drink it! Ma'am, please, put it down.
The dinner table was quiet, the candlelight flickering across crystal glasses. She reached for her drink, unaware that the nanny's voice had cut through the air. "Don't drink it!" Her hand froze. Curiosity and dread tangled in her chest. Slowly, she peered into the cup, and what she saw made her stomach drop.
This table heard every plan, every lie, every betrayal carved into the grain. And tonight, it all comes back. Everything is about to change.
This is the story of betrayal, revelation, and a moment that ended a life she once trusted. Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together, we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. Grace Hartman used to love nights like this. A quiet dinner, soft low lighting, the clink of silver against porcelain. It was the kind of peace she once believed money could buy. But lately, the air in her home felt heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to snap. She tried to ignore the tight feeling in her chest as she set the table. Ethan should have been home an hour ago. He used to text her every time a meeting ran late. Now she was lucky if he remembered to show up at all. She lit the candles and listened to the echo of her own steps on the marble floor. Too quiet, too cold. The house felt less like a home and more like a stage. Every room perfect and expensive and lifeless. She touched one of the candlesticks just to feel something warm under her fingers. When Ethan finally walked in, he didn't look at her first. His eyes went straight to his phone in his hand. He typed something fast and locked the screen like it carried state secrets. His face was pale from hours under office lights, but his eyes were sharp, tired, irritated. A cloud of stress followed him in, but not the kind Grace could comfort. This was darker, private, shut away from her. "You're late," she said softly, trying to keep her voice warm. Ethan slipped off his jacket without looking up. "Meetings ran over. Nothing new." She waited for more. Anything. A smile, a small touch, a moment of connection. But he walked past her like she wasn't even in the room. Dinner was quiet. Too quiet. Grace watched him eat with that same distracted frown. His shoulders slumped as if the weight of the world pressed down on him. Maybe she should have asked earlier if he wanted to talk. Maybe she should have tried harder. But every time she opened her mouth, something in his expression made her close it again. She felt like a stranger who had broken into her own marriage. He reached for his glass. It was the same drink she always made for him. Fresh fruit, sparkling water, a hint of mint. Simple and clean. But as she watched him bring it to his lips, a strange tension pressed against her ribs. She didn't know why. It was just a drink. Her drink sat at her right hand, untouched. Ethan set his glass down and rubbed his forehead. "Can we please have one dinner without you staring at me?" She blinked. "I wasn't staring. I was waiting for you to say something." He gave a dry laugh. "And what exactly do you expect me to say? That work is stressful? That I'm tired? You already know that." "I was hoping you'd tell me what's really bothering you." "Nothing is bothering me," he snapped. She lowered her eyes. It was never like this before. He used to open up to her so easily. Now every question felt like poking a wound. They sat in silence again until the sound of soft footsteps approached the dining room doorway. Lily hovered there, unsure if she should enter. Grace had hired her 2 months ago after the last nanny left unexpectedly. Lily was young, polite, gentle with the children, and soft-spoken. She almost never raised her voice. She moved like she didn't want to disturb the air around her. Grace smiled at her. "You can go ahead and clear the kitchen." Lily nodded, gave a quick smile, and walked toward the counter near the dining table. The moment she stepped closer, her nose lifted slightly like she smelled something. She stopped. Her eyes moved to Grace's cup. Everything happened fast. Lily froze. her face drained of color. She rushed forward with a speed Grace had never seen from her. Her hands shot out. She slapped the cup clean out of Grace's reach so hard it clattered across the floor. "Don't drink it!" Her voice tore through the quiet house. Sharp, loud, urgent. Grace jerked back in shock. The candle flames trembled. Her heart hammered against her ribs like it was trying to escape. "What in the world are you doing?" Ethan roared. Lily backed away from the table, breathing hard, eyes wide with fear. "Don't touch it. Please don't." Grace looked from Lily to Ethan. Her pulse was racing. Her skin prickled. The air felt wrong, like everything inside the room had shifted into a new shape. Ethan pushed his chair back so hard it scraped across the marble. "Have you lost your mind?" Lily shook her head fast. No, I swear. I saw something. I smelled something in that cup." Ethan stepped toward her, jaw tight. "You slapped a drink out of my wife's hand. You could have hurt her." "I was trying to protect her," Lily cried. "From what?" Ethan mocked. "Fruit water?" Grace leaned down, her hands trembling, and picked up the cup. It wasn't cracked, but the liquid inside had splashed across the rim. The smell hit her first. Bitter, sharp, almost metallic. Not at all like fruit or mint. She lifted it closer to her nose. Her breath caught. "Ethan, this smells strange." "It smells fine," Ethan snapped. "Lily is trying to stir something up." "I'm not," Lily said, shaking. "I swear I'm not. I saw you step toward the table when Grace went to get the napkins. I smelled something on your hand." Ethan's face twisted into fury. "You're fired, effective immediately. Get out of this house." Grace stood quickly. "Ethan, wait." He held up a hand to silence her. "I have been patient with her. She's been acting strange for weeks. And now she ruins our dinner and accuses me of something insane?" Lily's lower lip trembled, but she didn't back down. "Grace, please listen. Something is wrong." Ethan pointed toward the door. "Leave before I call security." Grace stared at the cup again. That sharp metallic scent. Her stomach churned. "Ethan," she said slowly, "why did she think there was something in my drink?" "Because she is unstable. She probably wants attention. Or she wanted to make you think I did something." His voice sharpened. "She's been weird since the day she arrived." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Please don't believe him." "Out," Ethan growled. Grace pulled Lily aside before security reached the room. "Go home for now. I'll call you tomorrow." Lily squeezed her hand. "Don't drink anything he gives you tonight. Please." Grace's breath caught. "Lily, I'm sorry, I had to stop you." Then she rushed out before Ethan could unleash another wave of anger. The house returned to silence, but nothing felt calm. The candles flickered hard, shadows dancing on the walls. Ethan didn't look at Grace. He picked up the broken pieces of calm like nothing unusual had happened and sat down at the table again. "She has always been off," he muttered. "We should have fired her earlier." Grace sat down slowly, eyes drifting to the cup. "Why did the drink smell like that?" "It didn't," he said flatly. "She probably touched it. She probably added something herself just to create drama." "That doesn't make sense." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Nothing she does makes sense. Stop thinking about it." But Grace couldn't stop. She kept replaying Lily's scream in her mind, the panic in her eyes, the way her voice shook. "Don't drink it." Grace didn't touch her food again. Ethan didn't seem to care. He barely looked at her as he finished his meal, then excused himself and walked toward his office. He didn't kiss her goodnight. He didn't ask if she was all right. He closed the office door and locked it, something he never used to do. Grace sat alone in the dining room with the bitter-smelling cup. The candles were burning low now. Their light flickered against the glass, casting shaky shadows on the tablecloth. Her thoughts raced. Her pulse wouldn't slow down. Her fingers touched the rim of the cup again. She shivered. When she finally stood, she felt drained, like her body had been carrying fear she didn't understand until now. She carried the cup to the sink but didn't pour it out. Something told her to save it, just in case. Upstairs, the hallway was dark except for a small nightlight at the end. She walked toward the security monitor screen on the wall and pulled up the camera feed for the dining room. It showed a frozen image, then static. Lines across the screen like tangled wiring. Every angle, every camera in that room. Corrupted. Her stomach tightened. Someone didn't erase them. Someone tampered with them. She stared at the flickering screen for a long time, feeling the pressure of something closing in around her. She stepped back, hugging her arms around herself. The house felt colder than before, emptier. Her heartbeat echoed loud in her ears as she walked toward her bedroom. When she finally reached for her bedroom door, she saw something on the floor, a small folded paper pushed through the crack beneath the door. Her breath caught. She looked down at it. The handwriting on the outside was shaky. At noon, she left the house to meet Lily. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. She didn't even take her own car. She ordered a rideshare and changed the pickup point to the back gate, then kept her hood up the entire ride like she was running from something invisible. Lily waited at a small coffee shop on the far side of town. She sat in the corner with her hands gripping a cup she wasn't drinking from. When Grace walked in, Lily jumped up and ran to meet her. "Thank God you came," Lily whispered. Grace nodded and sat down across from her. "Tell me everything you know. I need the truth. All of it." Lily looked around the cafe before leaning in. "I didn't plan for any of this. I wasn't trying to start trouble. But when I smelled your drink that night, I knew something was in it." "How?" Grace asked softly. Lily hesitated, then said, "Before I became a nanny, I babysat for a family that worked in medical research. The father was in pharmaceutical development. Sometimes he brought home samples. He warned me never to touch them. One time he opened a vial, and the smell hit me so fast it made the back of my throat burn. The smell on your drink was the same kind." Grace felt her stomach twist. "So you think it was something toxic?" "Yes," Lily said quietly. "Something dangerous. Something a normal person should never smell outside a lab." Her voice lowered even more. "That night I didn't think—" I reacted. "If you had drunk that, Grace—" She swallowed hard. "I don't know what would have happened." Grace leaned back, trying to absorb it. Her mind spun. It was hard to breathe, hard to feel her own pulse. "Why would he do that to me?" Lily's eyes softened. "I don't know. But Grace, your cameras did not glitch by accident." Grace nodded slowly. She had known that deep down, but hearing Lily say it made the truth sharper. "Do you think Ethan knows I met you?" she asked. Lily shook her head. "I don't think so. But Grace, you need to be careful. He is acting too calm, too controlled. People don't behave like that unless they know what they are doing." Grace looked down at her hands. Her fingers were trembling. She lifted her cup and forced herself to take a small sip just to steady her breathing. "When did you start thinking he was dangerous?" she whispered. "The night he fired me," Lily said. "He wasn't angry like a normal person. He was furious before I said anything, like he was afraid of something you might find out." Grace closed her eyes. The memory of Ethan's face that night flashed through her mind. The way his jaw had locked, the way he had yelled, the way he had looked at Lily like she was a threat, not an employee. "He changed my insurance policy," Grace murmured into her hands. "He actually changed it, and I didn't know until last night." Lily's mouth fell open. "That's not normal. He's planning something. You need to get ahead of him." Grace nodded. "I know." Lily reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You're not crazy. You're not imagining this. Someone in your house wants you to disappear." The words sank in deep, like she had known them all along, but needed someone else to say them out loud. Grace inhaled slow and stood. "I need to check something, and I need to be sure I'm right before I confront him." "Be careful going home," Lily said. Grace nodded. "I will." But nothing about this felt safe. Later that afternoon, Ethan returned home earlier than usual. He walked into the house with the polished smile he reserved for social events and magazine covers. He kissed her cheek in a way that looked affectionate to anyone else. To Grace, it felt like pressure, control, possession. "Good timing," he said. "We have a charity event tonight. I already sent the RSVP." "A charity event?" Grace asked, trying to hide the tremor in her voice. "It's important for my business contacts," he said, "and people want to see us together. So stop stressing." That last sentence hit wrong. Like an order disguised as comfort, Grace forced a smile. "Of course." His eyes lingered on her face. A little too long. "You look tired. Did you sleep all right?" Grace kept her expression steady. "I'm fine. You should eat something before we go," he said in a voice so soft it made her skin tighten. The event was crowded and loud. Cameras flashed as soon as they walked in. People greeted Ethan first, then Grace, and he held her waist like a man proudly showing off a trophy. His smile was perfect, his hand firm, every movement too rehearsed. He kept her close, always within reach, always under his arm or beside his shoulder. She felt trapped. He whispered into her ear at one point, "Try to look happy." It sounded like a threat hidden in silk. When the dinner was served, he guided her to her chair with a gentleness that made the hair on her arms rise. He poured her water before she could reach for the pitcher. His hand brushed her wrist as he set the glass down in front of her. She stared at it, her heart beat loud in her ears. "Drink," he said with a smile. "You look pale." She pushed the glass aside. "I'm not thirsty." His smile thinned. "Grace, don't make this difficult. Not tonight." The word difficult stung like a slap. She looked away and forced a small laugh, pretending she didn't hear what sat beneath the surface. They mingled with guests, posed for photos, made small talk with investors. Ethan looked like the man she married, the charming one, the one who lit up rooms. But Grace couldn't stop noticing the moments his smile slipped, the flashes of irritation when she stepped even a foot away from him, the way his fingers tightened around her arm when he pulled her closer. By the end of the night, she had made a decision. She needed proof, real proof. Later, after they returned home, Ethan stayed downstairs taking business calls. Grace pretended she was going up to shower, but instead she watched him from the landing. He spoke quietly, pacing, stress etched into his shoulders. She went to his office, opened his laptop, and searched through his financial records. Her heart raced as she clicked through files she didn't even know existed. That was when she found it. Payments, large to a pharmaceutical researcher, she didn't ones. Recognize, and recent insurance changes, stamped and filed without her knowledge. If she died, Ethan would gain everything. Her chest tightened until it hurt. The room spun. She reached for the desk, steadying herself. Each document felt like a punch, a betrayal, a warning she should have seen long before now. Toxic compounds, insurance money, corrupted cameras, a poisoned drink. Her breath shook. She had been looking for signs of cheating. Now she wondered if she had been looking at a man planning her death. She closed the laptop fast and wiped her hands over her face. Her whole body trembled. She needed to confirm the worst or prove she was imagining things. The cup, the bitter. She needed someone outside the house to test it. She grabbed her keys and left the house quietly, hoping Ethan was still absorbed in his call. She drove to a private clinic she trusted, a small one tucked behind a strip mall. She walked inside carrying the sealed bag with the dried residue from the cup. The doctor was an older man with steady hands and a calm voice. He didn't ask many questions. He only tested the substance under the lab lights while Grace sat on a flimsy metal chair with her hands clenched together. After a long wait, the doctor stepped back into the room with a look she didn't want to see. Not worried, not dramatic, just deeply serious. "Mrs. Hartman," he said quietly, "this compound is toxic." Her breath left her. "Toxic how?" she whispered. "In high doses, it can stop major organ systems. It is extremely hard to detect after the fact. Most labs would miss it." Grace's eyes burned. "Detect after the fact?" "Smell," he nodded. "This substance is sometimes used in cases where someone wants to avoid obvious traces. I don't know where you obtained it, but if someone placed this in a drink meant for you," he paused, "you might not have survived." Grace sat very still. Too still. Her hands went numb. The room muffled around her like she was underwater. "Are you saying someone was trying to kill me?" Her voice cracked. "I am saying someone used something dangerous," the doctor said. "You need to take this seriously, and you need to be safe." Safe. The word sounded unreal. Grace thanked him, walked out of the clinic and made it to her car before she broke down. Tears came fast, hot and shaking. She covered her mouth to muffle the sound. She felt sick with terror, disbelief, sick with the knowledge that she had been sleeping beside a man who wanted her gone. It took several minutes before she could breathe again. She sat in the parked car with the engine off. shaking until her fingers tingled. When she finally pulled out of the lot, she drove slowly, her eyes blurry, her mind spinning through every moment she had ever trusted Ethan. She no longer wondered if he was cheating. She wondered if he was trying to kill her. Grace pulled into the long driveway of her house. The lights were off except for one dim glow in the living room window. She sat in the car for a moment, gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles hurt. She wiped her tears, inhaled deep, and stepped out. The night air felt thick, heavy, watching. She walked up the front steps, her heart beating so loud she could feel it in her throat. She pushed open the door quietly. The house was silent. Then her eyes adjusted. Ethan was sitting on the living room couch in the dark. No TV, no music, no lights except a small lamp behind him. He held something in his hands. When he looked up, Grace's breath froze in her chest. He was holding their wedding photo. He stared at her for a long moment, his smile slow and calm, like he already knew every step she'd taken tonight. Grace froze in the doorway, one hand still on the knob. She felt the night air behind her, the warm air of the house in front of her, and Ethan sitting between the two like a gate she could not pass. Her voice caught in her throat. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Ethan didn't seem bothered by her silence. He just kept smiling, calm and patient, the wedding photo resting loosely in his hands. "You were gone a long time," he said. "Where did you go?" Grace forced herself to step inside. Closing the door made her chest tighten, but leaving it open felt worse. She lowered her purse to the floor and tried to keep her voice even. "I just needed some air. I needed to clear my head." "Air," Ethan repeated with a soft laugh. "At night, without telling me." He lifted the picture frame and brushed a thumb over the glass. "You know, when we got married, you promised me honesty. You said you'd always tell me the truth." Grace swallowed. "I haven't lied." He looked up sharply. "Haven't you?" She clenched her hands behind her back. She felt like she'd stepped into a cage she didn't know was there. The walls looked the same, but the energy felt different. Controlled. Sealed. She gave him a small smile she didn't feel. "You seem stressed," she said. "Maybe we should talk tomorrow. It's late." His smile widened just slightly. "You feel distant tonight." "I'm tired," she whispered. "I know." He rose slowly from the couch, still holding the photo. "You have so much on your mind. Maybe too much." He stepped closer. Grace tried not to flinch. "You disappear for hours. You come home jumpy. You barely talk to me anymore. I'm starting to think you don't trust me." Grace held her breath. "That's not true." He lifted the photo between them. Their wedding day stared back at her, all smiles and sunlight and promises that felt unreal now. Ethan tilted the frame so the light hit it. "We were happy then," he said. "We can be again," she whispered, trying to keep him calm. He watched her face carefully. "Can we?" The question was soft, but something cold wrapped around it, something sharp. Grace's phone buzzed in her pocket. She stiffened. Ethan's eyes flicked down. She forced herself to move slowly, reaching for the device. She didn't want him snatching it from her hands. She glanced at the screen. Block number. Again. Her heart thudded painfully. Ethan stepped closer. "Who is that?" "No one," she said too fast. He raised a brow. "No one calls you this late." Grace silenced the phone and stuffed it back into her pocket. "Please, I just want to go upstairs." He reached out and touched her arm. The touch was gentle, but her stomach twisted as if she'd swallowed ice. "You've been acting strange," he said softly. "I'm worried about you." She forced a nod. "I'm fine, really." "You're shaking," he said. Her breath hitched. "It's cold." He chuckled under his breath. "Grace, it's 72 degrees in here." Grace looked away, feeling her control slipping. She needed to get out of this room, away from him, away from the picture, away from the questions. "I'm just tired," she whispered again. "Let's talk in the morning." For a long second he didn't move, didn't speak, didn't blink. She could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen and the quiet tick of the hallway clock. Everything else felt too still. Finally, he nodded once. "All right," he said. "Tomorrow." Relief washed through her so hard she had to fight not to sag forward. She turned toward the stairs, but Ethan spoke again. "You know," he said, "I don't like it when you keep things from me." She froze mid-step. He continued, "Secrets make people do foolish things." Her fingers curled against her palms. "I'm not hiding anything." Ethan hummed doubtfully. "Good. I'd hate for us to drift apart. We're stronger when we stay close." Then his voice dropped. "Very close." Grace forced her legs to move. She took the stairs slowly, afraid to turn her back quickly. She could feel his eyes on her, following her every step. The weight of his stare didn't lift until she reached the landing. She walked down the hall almost on tiptoe, her breath thin and shaky. When she reached her bedroom, she slipped inside and shut the door quietly. She didn't turn on the main light. She only switched on the small lamp by her nightstand. The soft glow filled the room enough for her to breathe again, but her hands wouldn't stop trembling. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the carpet, trying to calm her racing thoughts. She replayed the doctor's words. She replayed Ethan holding the wedding photo like a warning wrapped in nostalgia. Her phone buzzed again. She jerked, grabbed it fast, and stared at the screen. Blocked number. One new message. Her chest tightened. She opened it. "Do not sleep." Her breath rushed out in a shaky gasp. She typed back quickly. "Who is this?" No answer. Another message came instead. "He is watching." Grace's skin prickled. She stood from the bed and backed away until her shoulders hit the wall. She looked around the room, searching for anything out of place. She checked the windows, the closet, under the bed. Nothing. But the feeling wouldn't go away. She walked to the bathroom, turned on the faucet to mask her breathing, and whispered to herself, "Stay calm. Think." Then her phone buzzed again. She flinched and looked down. Another text. "Check the hallway." Grace's pulse spiked. She didn't want to. Every instinct screamed to ignore it, but fear tugged her toward the door. She stepped out of the bathroom and walked slowly toward the bedroom door. She pressed her ear against it. For several seconds, she heard nothing. Then a soft creak, a shift in weight, a floorboard moving. Someone was outside. Grace held her breath until her lungs ached. She stepped back from the door, heart hammering, legs shaking so hard she had to grab the bedpost to stay upright. Her phone buzzed again. "He's waiting." Grace shook her head. "Please stop," she whispered to the empty room. But the messages didn't stop. Another text appeared. "He hasn't moved for 10 minutes. Her breath turned sharp and shallow. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. Her whole body trembled as she inched closer to the door again. She pressed her ear to the wood. Silence. Then, a soft, slow inhale. Not hers. Not her imagination. A whisper of breath right on the other side. Grace slapped a hand over her mouth. Her phone buzzed again. She forced herself to look. "He knows you're awake." Her heart pounded so hard she thought she might faint. She stepped back, her eyes darting around the room. She needed help. She needed a plan. Her phone buzzed once more. "Go downstairs, leave now." Her breath caught. The next line appeared before she could react. "I am outside. Hurry." Grace's knees nearly buckled. She moved to the door, her hands shaking as she gripped the knob. She turned it slowly, praying the sound wouldn't draw attention. The hallway was dark. Too dark. She stepped out, holding her phone tight, her heart crashing against her ribs. Shadows stretched across the floor like long fingers. She tiptoed along the wall, every nerve in her body on fire. Her phone buzzed again. He moved. Grace almost ran. She held back only enough to keep her footsteps quiet. She reached the stairs and looked down. The front door was cracked open. Cold air drifted in. Someone whispered her name from outside. Urgent, low, familiar. "Lily." Grace covered her mouth to keep from crying out. She hurried down the stairs, skipping the creaky last step, and moved toward the open door. She could see the outline of Lily's shadow just beyond the porch light. But before she could reach her, a warm breath touched the back of Grace's neck. Soft, calm, too close. Then Ethan's voice drifted from the dark living room behind her. "Grace!" Her body turned to ice. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. He stepped out of the shadows, still holding the wedding photo, his smile slow and peaceful, like nothing was wrong at all. "You look tired," he said again, voice smooth as silk. He tilted his head. "You should rest." Grace woke with a start, her heart pounding against her ribs. For a second, she didn't know where she was. Then she remembered the night before, the whisper outside her door, Ethan standing in the dark telling her she should rest. She had barely slept. She waited until he went to bed, then locked herself in the guest room with the lights on. She didn't close her eyes until dawn. When she walked into the kitchen the next morning, Ethan was already at the island, reading emails like nothing strange had happened. He looked up and smiled calmly, as if the night had been peaceful and normal for both of them. "You disappeared last night," he said lightly. "You ended up in the guest room. Why?" Grace forced a soft laugh. "You scared me. Standing in the dark like that. I just needed a little space." "Space?" he repeated, but not with anger, with interest. "Why would you need space from me?" Her throat tightened, but she held the smile. "I didn't sleep well. That's all." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "You look tired." Always that line. It made her skin crawl now. Ethan set his phone down and walked toward her. She didn't back away, even though every instinct screamed run. She kept her breathing steady and her expression soft. "You know you can trust me, right?" he asked. "I do," she lied. He stepped close enough that she could smell his cologne, the same scent he wore on their honeymoon. She wondered if she would ever smell it again without feeling sick. "I don't want anything coming between us," he said. "Not stress, not confusion, not people whispering in your ear." Grace nodded once. "I know." His hand brushed her cheek. The touch was slow and gentle. She kept her face still, even though her stomach twisted. "Good girl," he whispered. Her chest tightened. Ethan kissed her forehead like she was a fragile thing he owned, walked to the counter, grabbed his keys and said, "I'll be home late." Big day. Then he left without another word. The moment the door shut, Grace's shoulders sagged. She pulled out her phone and opened the secret chat Lily had used the night before. A chill ran through her. Dozens of unread messages, warnings, updates, pleas for her to respond. Grace's breath shook as she typed. "I'm safe. For now." "Where are you?" Lily replied instantly. "Outside. I didn't leave. I waited until he drove away." Grace looked toward the backyard. The morning sun lit everything in warm gold, but the beauty felt fake, like a stage set. "Come in through the side. Hurry." 2 minutes later, Lily slipped inside through the mudroom door. Her hair was messy. Her eyes were wide with fear and exhaustion. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. "Grace," she whispered, grabbing her arms. "We need to move fast. I found something." Grace's pulse jumped. "What?" Lily pulled out a small tablet. "I broke into his cloud account." "You what?" "I had to," Lily whispered. "After last night, I had to know what he was planning." Grace's hands trembled as she took the tablet. "What did you find?" "Encrypted messages between Ethan and Vanessa." Grace's breath stopped. "Vanessa?" Lily nodded. "They've been working together. For months, maybe longer." Grace sat down at the kitchen table before her knees gave out. "Show me." Lily typed in a code and opened a folder filled with chat logs. The messages were short, cold, businesslike. Not romantic, not sweet, just strategy, planning, instructions. "Prepare phase, we. You won't need keep her close. I'll do not slip." Grace's throat tightened. These aren't about cheating," she whispered. "No," Lily said. "They're about you." Her handle the one. Notice. Isolated. Rest. Grace scrolled through message after message. Vanessa giving updates. Ethan giving orders. Mentions of the trust fund. Mentions of removal. Mentions of her daily routines. Her habits. Her emotional patterns. They spoke about her like she was a target. A problem. An obstacle. A final message made her skin crawl. After phase 2, she won't be an issue anymore. Grace's mouth went dry. "Lily, he's serious. He doesn't want a divorce. He wants me gone." Lily sat down across from her. "I'm sorry, Grace. I didn't know it was this deep." Grace felt tears burn her eyes. She blinked fast, refusing to cry now. Vanessa was my friend, my closest friend. I trusted her. She's not your friend, Lily said softly. She never was. Grace forced herself to breathe. In, out, slow. I need to see more. There's something else, Lily said. A map, a schedule, notes. She opened another file. It was the events dates Grace didn't times marked. Some were labeled with words that made Grace's stomach drop. Dosage, opportunity, exposure backup plan, and one label written in Vanessa's typing style. Guest house preparation, calendar, recognize, circled, window. Grace stared, feeling the room tilt slightly. What does that mean? She asked. Lily shook her head. I don't know, but whatever they're planning, it's happening soon. Grace stood. We need to see the guest house. Lily hesitated. You can't go alone. If they catch you, I won't get caught. But her voice shook, betraying how scared she really was. Grace, Lily whispered, please slow down. Think. I've been thinking, Grace said, holding the counter for balance. I've been thinking for weeks. Now I'm done thinking. I need answers. Lily looked torn, but after a moment she nodded. All right, but we go together. They waited until the housekeeper left for her break. Then they slipped out through the side door, crossing the backyard as quietly as they could. The guest house sat near the edge of the property, surrounded by tall trees that created heavy shadows even in daylight. Grace felt her heart hammer as they approached. She reached the door first, her hand trembling as she grasped the handle. It was unlocked. She pushed it open. The air inside was warm, with a faint, sweet smell mixed with something sharp. She stepped inside slowly. The living room looked normal, a little messy, clothes draped over the back of the couch, 2 wine glasses on the coffee table. She stopped when she realized one of the glasses had liquid dried at the bottom. A sharp, bitter smell lifted from it. Her knees weakened. It's the same scent, from the cup. Lily covered her mouth. Grace. Vanessa drank from the other glass. Grace stared at the room, feeling smaller and smaller by the second. Vanessa was here, comfortable, relaxed, drinking beside Ethan, living a secret life while planning Grace's end. She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw the glass against the wall, but she forced herself to stay still. We need to look around, she said. They moved through the guest house quietly. The bedroom had clothes scattered across the bed. Vanessa's perfume filled the air. Grace tried not to breathe it in. She opened the closet and stepped back when she found a drawer full of documents and notebooks. Ethan was here yesterday, Lily whispered. Look. His cufflink was on the dresser, silver, engraved, a piece of him left behind. Grace's stomach twisted, but she didn't stop searching. She opened the bathroom cabinet and found 2 pill bottles with labels peeled off. She lifted one and shook it. Pills rattled inside. Don't touch those, Lily warned. I'm not, Grace whispered. I need to see everything. A sound cut through the air, a door opening. Grace froze. Lily grabbed her wrist, eyes wide. Footsteps entered the guest house. Someone was here. Then a familiar voice. Well, Vanessa said, look what I just walked into. Vanessa's voice slid through the doorway, like a knife wrapped in silk. Grace felt her stomach drop as she turned slowly toward the sound. Vanessa stood just inside the guest house entrance, one hand on the doorknob, the other holding her phone loosely at her side. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, her clothes elegant but simple, like she had dressed without trying to impress anyone. She looked at Grace the way someone might look at a stain on the floor. Well, she repeated, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. This is inappropriate. Lily stepped in front of Grace a little, but Vanessa laughed. Relax. If I wanted to scream, I would have done it already. I don't need Ethan for that. Grace's throat tightened. Why are you here, Vanessa? I live here, Vanessa said with a calm shrug. Well, not officially, but close enough. Grace clenched her fists. You're staying in my guest house with my husband. Vanessa tilted her head slightly. You say that like you didn't know. Her eyes sparkled. Come on, Grace. You're smart. You had to have felt him slipping away. Grace tried to keep her voice steady. You two were planning something. More than an affair. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. Were? How sweet. You talk like it's over. Lily stepped closer, her voice trembling with anger. We know what you and Ethan were planning. We saw the messages. Instead of panicking, Vanessa smiled as if Lily had complimented her. Good. Saves me the trouble of explaining. Grace's breath shook. How long? Vanessa looked at her thoughtfully. A little over a year. Ethan came to me with an offer. A future. A promise. He said you were holding him back. Said you were too delicate, too emotional, too sheltered to run the empire your family built. My family's money isn't his, Grace snapped. Vanessa gave a light shrug. But it could be. All it takes is one signature after you're gone, or a tragic accident, or a widow's advantage. You know how the world works, Grace. You married into power, but you don't know how to keep it. Grace stepped forward. You think helping him kill me is the way to keep it? Vanessa didn't flinch, not even a blink. I think removing obstacles is how the world works. Ethan understands that. You should have understood it too. Lily breathed out slowly, shaking with anger. How can you say that? How can you justify this? Justify? Vanessa laughed softly. Lily, dear, you assume I care about morals. I don't. Her eyes drifted back to Grace. You were in the way. That's all. Grace felt her vision blur for a moment, rage and heartbreak mixing together until her pulse throbbed in her throat. She fought to keep her voice steady. You're human, Vanessa. You're not a monster. You don't have to be part of this. Ethan is manipulating you. Vanessa's smile faded. Her eyes flashed with something darker. I owe Ethan everything. For what? Grace whispered. For choosing me, Vanessa said quietly. For seeing me when no one else did. For promising me a life I could never earn alone. For giving me a chance at something bigger than playing sidekick to a perfect little billionaire wife. Grace blinked as the truth hit her. You're doing this because you're jealous. Vanessa stepped closer, her voice soft but bitter. I'm doing this because he deserves better than you, and because I deserve everything you take for granted. Grace felt her chest tighten. So killing me is your idea of earning it? Vanessa smirked. Don't be dramatic. It was never supposed to look like murder. Grace froze at those words. Vanessa continued calmly. Accidents happen. People get sick. Pills get mixed up. Sometimes a heart condition comes out of nowhere. Sometimes a wife just falls apart under stress. Lily moved in front of Grace again. You're insane. No, Vanessa said simply. I'm loyal. Grace took a small step back. Loyal to a man who doesn't love you. Love, Vanessa laughed. This isn't about love. Then what? Vanessa's eyes hardened. Power, survival, and taking what was promised. Promised, Grace whispered. Vanessa lifted her chin with pride. Phase 2 is almost here. You should use whatever time you have left to say goodbye to what you love. Grace's blood ran cold. What is phase 2? Vanessa shrugged. If you don't know by now, you'll find out soon. She reached into her purse and lifted her phone. Now leave before I call Ethan. He won't be happy to hear you've been snooping. Lily stepped forward. You don't scare us. Vanessa eyed her with amusement. Sweetheart, you should be terrified. Grace grabbed Lily's arm. Come on, she whispered. We need to go. Vanessa leaned against the doorway as they stepped past her. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't grab them. She just watched them with a small, knowing smile. Grace, she called softly as they reached the yard. Grace turned. Vanessa's smile widened. I hope your last days are peaceful. Grace felt the words strike her like ice. She turned and walked away fast, her breath shaking, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her teeth. Lily rushed beside her, gripping her arm. Grace, Lily whispered, we have to leave. We have to go somewhere safe. Grace barely heard her. Her mind was spinning. Her legs felt weak. She could still feel Vanessa's smirk like a stain on her skin. They slipped back into the main house. Grace closed the door behind them and leaned against it, her knees shaking. She's worse than Ethan, Lily whispered. Grace wiped the tears that had started without warning. No, they're the same. She walked to the kitchen table, sat down heavily and covered her face with her hands. She felt devastated, betrayed, furious, broken. Vanessa had pretended to care, pretended to be her friend, pretended to support her, and all along she had been helping Ethan plan her destruction. Lily placed the tablet on the table. "We have more to dig through." Grace nodded slowly. "Show me everything." Lily sat beside her, opening more folders, decrypting messages, reading aloud bits that made Grace's heart crumble. Updates about her movements, notes on her health, a list of medications she took, a timeline for her elimination. Grace felt something heavy settle inside her chest, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was determination. She lifted her head, eyes sharp even through the tears. "I'm not letting them win." Lily nodded quickly. "Then we move fast." Grace was about to respond when Lily's tablet pinged. Lily frowned, opened the notification, and froze. "What?" Grace whispered. Lily's face drained of color. "He just made a transfer." Grace's pulse sped up. "What transfer?" Lily swallowed hard, her voice cracking. "Ethan just moved a huge amount of your money into an offshore account. The transfer code says..." Her breath hitched. "Grace, it says, final stage." The room went still. Grace stood in the center of her bedroom, breathing slow and steady, even though her hands trembled. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, but it felt false. This house had been her home for years, yet now every shadow looked like a threat, and every quiet moment felt like a trap waiting to snap shut. "Final stage." The words Lily read from Ethan's transfer made her stomach twist every time she thought about them. Lily sat on the edge of the bed, flipping through every screenshot, every file, every message they had collected. "Grace, this is enough to bury him, but we have to move carefully. If he even suspects what we're doing..." "I know," Grace said. "He'll move faster." She walked to the dresser and opened her jewelry box. It wasn't jewelry she needed. Hidden in the bottom drawer was a small flash drive she kept for storing personal legal documents. She plugged it into her laptop and added everything they had gathered: Ethan, the and toxic Vanessa's, financial residue, encrypted messages, transfers, report, screenshots of the life insurance policy he changed behind her back, the estate documents showing how much he gained if something happened to her. As each file transferred, her fear turned into something steadier, harder, stronger. Lily watched her with wide eyes. "What are you going to do?" Grace closed the laptop. "End this." Lily swallowed. "We need help." "And we're getting it," Grace said. "I'm sending everything to my attorney. But first I need one more thing. Something that proves Ethan's intent beyond doubt." "He already tried to poison you," Lily whispered. "I need him on record," Grace said. "Speaking freely, confident, unaware." Lily's eyes widened. "You're going to confront him." Grace nodded. Lily shook her head fast. "No. Grace, you can't be alone with him. You saw how he acts when he thinks you're not paying attention." "I won't be alone." "You don't understand," Lily said desperately. "He is planning something tonight. He asked the staff to take the evening off. He thinks you're isolated." Grace gave her a calm, steady look. "I know." Lily stared for a long moment before understanding hit. "Don't tell me he invited you to dinner." Grace said nothing. Lily's voice dropped. "He wants tonight to be the last night you breathe." "That's why I have to go," Grace whispered, "because people like Ethan always talk too much when they think they've won, and I need every word." Lily closed her eyes like she was trying to calm her own panic. "Then you're wearing a wire." "I already ordered one," Grace said. "Same-day delivery." Lily blinked. "You had this planned?" "I started planning the moment I left that clinic." Grace crossed the room, opened the closet, and pulled out a long black dress. Elegant, simple, the one Ethan always complimented. If he wanted the perfect wife at his side tonight, she would give him the version he wanted to see. He would never expect anything underneath. The doorbell rang, startling both of them. Grace grabbed Lily's arm. "Go check." Lily hurried down the hall. Grace listened from the top of the stairs, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. She heard the front door open slightly, then Lily's relieved whisper. "It's the delivery." Grace exhaled. Lily returned holding a small package, light but sturdy. Grace took it and opened it with careful fingers. Inside sat the tiny audio device. thin enough to tape under her dress strap. Lily stared at it like it was both salvation and danger. "This could save your life." Grace lifted the device. "That's the point." She changed into the dress slowly, her hands steady despite her racing pulse. Lily helped secure the wire, adjusting its position so the microphone sat hidden along the neckline. Grace practiced moving, talking, sitting, making sure it didn't shift. Then she opened her laptop again. She typed a short message to her attorney. "Emergency. Files attached. Act tonight." Then she hit send. Lily looked at her. "What did you tell them?" "That if anything happens to me tonight, Ethan Hartman is responsible." Lily nodded shakily. "Good." At 6 o'clock, Ethan texted her. "Dinner at 7. Wear something nice." Grace stared at the message long enough for the words to feel like a bruise. Then she, "Of course. Can't wait." Lily looked horrified. "Grace." "It has to look real," Grace whispered. Ethan didn't bother hiding his plan anymore. The staff had vanished for the evening. The lights in the dining room were dim. The candles on the table were already lit when Grace walked in. Everything looked romantic, calm, inviting, a perfect mask. Ethan came down the stairs wearing the suit she had bought him years ago. He looked handsome, composed, confident, like a man about to reclaim something he thought belonged to him. "You look beautiful," he said. Grace smiled softly. "Thank you." His eyes swept over her in a way that made her want to step back, but she didn't. Typed. She had to let him come, feel close, safe. She had to make him believe she was his again. He pulled out her chair. "Sit, let's have a peaceful night." The way he said peaceful made her skin crawl. She sat. He poured wine into her glass, his hands steady and calm. Too steady, too calm. Grace watched him through lowered lashes. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't conflicted. He wasn't doubting. He wore the confidence of a man who thought everything had fallen into place. "You know," Ethan said, lifting his own glass, "I've missed this." "Us?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "When we don't fight, when you trust me, everything feels easier." She kept her voice soft. "I want things to be good between us." He reached across the table and took her hand. "Then stop letting people get into your head." "You mean Lily?" she asked. His eyes darkened just slightly. "She has caused enough trouble?" Grace felt her pulse jump, but she stayed calm. "She cares about me." "She cares about your money," Ethan said with a scoff. "Everyone does." He lifted her wine glass and nudged it toward her. "Drink. Relax." Grace wrapped her fingers around the stem. She did not drink, but she brought it close enough to her lips that he believed she might. "You really want this?" she whispered. "Yes," he said. "I want you calm and happy again. I want you to stop running around behind my back. I want my wife to act like my wife." Her chest tightened. "And if I don't?" He smiled. It wasn't kind. It was final. "Then I'll handle it." Her voice trembled despite herself. "Handle what?" "You," he said simply. "Everything about you that becomes a problem." Grace put the glass down gently. "Ethan." He reached for her again. "Stop fighting me." "I'm not fighting," she whispered. "I'm trying to understand." He leaned back, confident, satisfied. "There's nothing to understand. Tonight fixes everything." Something cold slid through her chest. "Why tonight?" she asked, keeping her voice soft. "Because," Ethan said, "phase 2 starts now." He lifted his own glass and took a slow sip, watching her carefully. And then, from the corner of the room, high heels clicked against the floor. Grace turned. Vanessa stepped into the dining room, wearing a red dress and a smile that made Grace's stomach twist. Grace whispered, "You weren't invited." Vanessa laughed lightly. "Of course I was." Ethan rested his arm across the back of her chair. "Vanessa is here to support us." Grace felt something deep inside her go cold and still. Vanessa circled the table slowly, tracing a fingertip along the polished wood. "You didn't think you were having this dinner alone, did you? Ethan thought it'd be nice for you to see the people who care about you." "Care," Grace repeated. "Deeply," Vanessa said with a smirk. Grace's hand slipped under the table to her phone. tapping the side button 3 times. Her legal team received her location instantly. Vanessa sat next to Ethan. "This is your last night in this house. You should enjoy it." Grace kept her breathing slow. "So what happens now?" Ethan lifted his glass again, smiling like a man who had already won. "What happens now," he said, "is that everything goes the way it should have gone weeks ago." Grace felt the wire beneath her dress, warm against her skin. Every word, every was being recorded. Threat, confession, every plan. She waited for the moment she knew was coming. Vanessa leaned back, crossing her legs. "This is the part where you accept your fate, Grace." Grace smiled slowly. No fear, no just quiet, rising power. Flinching. "Actually," she said softly, "this is the part where you two start losing everything." Vanessa froze. Ethan's smile faltered, and before either of them could respond, Grace's phone buzzed gently under the table. A single message from her attorney. "It's done. They can't touch your accounts now." Ethan leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "What did you just do?" Grace lifted her chin, and the front gates of the estate opened outside. Flashing lights approached the house. Grace heard the engines before Ethan or Vanessa realized anything was wrong. The low rumble of several cars, steady and deliberate, moving up the long driveway. She kept her gaze soft and steady, as if she didn't hear a thing, even though her pulse was racing. Ethan stood from his chair, his jaw tightening. "What was that?" Grace rested her hands calmly in her lap. "Guests," Vanessa's smile faltered. "What kind of guests?" Grace didn't answer. She didn't need to. The sound grew louder, the tires crunching over gravel, the faint crackle of a police radio drifting through the night air. Ethan stepped toward the window, confusion crossing his face. Then irritation, then something darker. "This better not be what I think it is," he said. Grace rose from her chair. Her legs felt strong, solid, no shaking this time. "What do you think it is?" Vanessa rushed to Ethan's side, peering through the window, her face drained of color. "Ethan, those aren't your men." Ethan spun around, eyes sharp. "Grace, what did you do?" She didn't look away. "I protected myself." His voice dropped to a dangerous hush. "You went against me. You planned to kill me," she whispered. "I just decided not to let you." Vanessa hissed. "You're bluffing. They can't touch us." Grace stepped toward the table, picked up her phone and pressed a button. A soft chime sounded. "Everything you said tonight was recorded, and everything we found, every message, every document, every transfer, is already with my attorney, my board, and law enforcement." Ethan's face twisted with rage. "Grace, don't bother," she said softly. "It's over." A loud knock slammed through the house. "Police, open the door." Vanessa grabbed Ethan's arm, shaking. "Say something. Fix it. Fix it." He shoved her aside, panic finally cracking through his calm facade. "Grace, listen to me. We can work this out. You don't know what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing," she whispered. The knocking came again, harder this time. "Police, open the door." Grace stepped back from the table. Vanessa lunged for her, but Grace slipped out of reach. Ethan grabbed Vanessa's wrist, yanking her behind him like a shield as he stormed toward the foyer. The front door burst open before he reached it. Officers rushed inside, shouting commands, hands on their holsters. Ethan's face hardened into fury. Vanessa clung to his arm, whispering frantic, broken words, but she never once let go. "Ethan Hartman," an officer said, "you're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and financial crimes." Grace watched from the dining room doorway. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. Ethan didn't look at the officers. He looked at her. "You think this is justice?" he growled. "You think you've won?" Grace held his gaze. "I survived." Vanessa screamed as officers pulled her away from Ethan, but she kept shouting his name like they were lovers torn apart by fate instead of criminals who had destroyed themselves. "You'll regret this, Grace," Vanessa shrieked. "He deserved everything you stole." Grace didn't answer her. Ethan fought the officers, his jaw tight, his eyes burning as he was dragged toward the police car waiting outside. "Grace!" he shouted once more. "Grace!" She didn't look away, not once. The officers shoved him inside the car. Vanessa tried to reach him, but two others held her back. The door slammed shut. The cars pulled away one by one, their lights fading as they rolled down the driveway and disappeared into the night. Grace stood in the doorway long after they were gone, breathing slowly, feeling each inhale settle deeper and steadier inside her. The house was quiet, still, almost peaceful. Lily stepped up beside her. "You did it," she whispered. Grace exhaled. "We did it." Lily hugged her tight, relief shaking both of them. "You're safe now." Grace didn't trust her voice, so she nodded and pulled away slowly. She walked into the kitchen, opened the cabinet beneath the sink, and pulled out the poison cup. She held it for a long moment, staring at the smooth glass that had almost ended her life. Then she dropped it into the trash. It shattered softly. Later, long after Lily went home and the house fell silent, Grace sat alone in her room. She should have felt triumphant. She should have felt free. But instead she felt tired, heavy, heartbroken, and grateful she was still alive. She leaned back on her bed and closed her eyes. Somewhere miles away, in a holding cell lit by flickering fluorescent lights, Ethan Hartman sat on a metal bench, staring at the wall. His hands were cuffed. His life was in ruins. But his face was calm, cold, still. A slow smile crept across his lips. He leaned forward, lowered his voice, and whispered to no one at all, "This is not over.